From blueprints to booming businesses, from groundbreaking to grand openings, this is Beyond the Blueprint. Join host Brad Howard as he takes you behind the scenes of growth and development in Mooresville, Lake Norman, and beyond. We're talking with the decision makers, the planners, the visionaries shaping our communities, giving exclusive insight into what happens before, during, and after projects that define our region. The future is being built right now. Let's go beyond the blueprint.
Good Friday afternoon. Thank you to those tuning in on the radio at 105.9 FM, 100.7 FM, 1400 AM, on social media, on WSSCnews.com, and on demand with the WSSC News app. From blueprints to booming businesses, this is Beyond the Blueprint, and I'm your host, Brad Howard. Today, we're joined by Jeremy Katz, real estate broker, developer, planning board member for the town of Mooresville, discussing real estate market trends, market shifts, infrastructure and growth, and community involvement, and most importantly, the future of Mooresville and the greater Lake Norman area. Jeremy, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Brad. We've been trying to put this in the works for a little while now, and we finally did it, and I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It is. So we'll start out. The first question is, from Wall Street to Mooresville, how in the world did this happen?
Great story. So I started my career as a commercial real estate appraiser up in New York. We had a very comfortable life. I worked for J.P. Morgan Chase, appraising in their commercial term lending group, which means I appraised big apartment buildings all throughout New York City. And one day my wife called and said, "Do you want to move to North Carolina?" I said, "Of course, let's go." And she said, "Do you want to know about how this came about?" And I said, "No, let's go." I was never really a true New Yorker, and I was ready to go. And the interesting thing is when you work for a bank, when you give notice, they walk you out the door.
Right.
So this had to be under wraps for a year. And in the meantime, and then I got promoted, and we came down, and it's just been a great ride. We came here in 2013 with my wife's company, MSC and Davidson. So we came with that whole group, and I'm sure you've met a lot of them.
Absolutely. So my next question is, there in Davidson, how did you choose Mooresville?
Oh, that's a good question. So we got a residential broker, and we started driving around the lake and trying to figure out where we wanted to live. And we were really stuck in Cornelius, and we almost moved to the peninsula, and, just having second thoughts for some reason. And I said to my broker, "Let's go up to Mooresville." And she didn't do much in Mooresville. She said, "That's like the country." And I said, "The country." So
what year was this in?
This was 2013.
Okay.
Actually, it was 2012 when we moved in 2013. Jen and I drove up to Mooresville, drove around with our app open, looking at houses, and I said, "We got to move here." I knew nothing about it, and it was a great move. Really worked out great for us.
So the transition from New York to Mooresville, or keep going into detail here, because you went from, if this was 2012, 2013, you went from a population in the millions to,
I think it was 35,000.
35,000 maybe at the time.
Yeah.
The corporate limits,
Right.
maybe 100,000
Right.
outside.
Right.
So now
Right.
we're 55,000 and pushing 120,000 or so.
Right.
South of Cornelius Road.
Isn't it amazing? 120,000. The transition, believe it or not, for me was really very easy. I grew up in a small town called Long Beach, which is a small town. It was a barrier island off of Long Island. So I really had that small town feeling. And then we moved to Wheatley Heights, which is midway on Long Island. And most of my work as an appraiser was in New York City, but I still went out to the suburbs. And the suburbs on Long Island really feel more like what Cornelius and Huntersville feels like now. And now Mooresville's getting to feel the same way. And the transition, it was really easy for me. Came here and I wanted to truly understand, what is Mooresville? I didn't want to come in heavy-handed. I wanted to learn. And the transition for me, again, it wasn't tough, believe it or not.
Yeah, and remember you jumped right in. Did you do the Citizens Academy? Or
I did.
I know you immersed yourself. I mean, most people come to a town and they say, "Well, how do I get involved?" I mean, you threw yourself at it. Yeah,
I just did it. So when I was an appraiser up in New York, I got up and I went to look at buildings in New York City, and I came home or to the office and I wrote long appraisal reports and never really got out and did anything civic.
Mm-hmm.
My parents were involved in community. It was just how it worked out. But when I came to Mooresville, I wanted to understand the culture. I wanted to understand the difference. And I opened up one of the local papers, and it said, starting in September is the Citizens Academy. And I called up. I didn't know if I could even be part of it. And they said, where do you live? And I told them. And they said, yeah, come on down. And that was the first instance of me understanding what Mooresville is. And if you don't know what the Citizens Academy, it's put on by the town. And you get to learn about all the different departments, and you get to meet all the politicians and see how the town works. And it was amazing. And from there, I started to network through the Chamber of Commerce, and I listened more than I spoke because I just wanted to understand. I don't want to come in here and try to change anything. I wanted to sort of blend in. And it's just been a wild ride. I can't believe it's been 13 years.
13 years. So from that Citizens Academy moving forward, you, let's see, I know you're very involved in Rotary, maybe Rotary.
Very involved with Rotary. Before that, what was interesting was Miles Atkins was the mayor at the time. And one day he came up to me and he said, man, you're everywhere. He said, do you want to come in and be part of our Rotary Club? I had no idea what Rotary was. You know, I thought you go in the basement and you light a candle and you say some crazy things. And I walked in and there was this room full of people, and I had to get up and public speak. I'd never done that before. That was really strange. And I sort of grew up in the public here through Rotary. And, you know, even today, I was Rotarian the other day. We had Abigail Jennings in, and she spoke about all of her amazing organizations, and Abigail owns Lake Norman Realty.
Right.
And through Rotary, I've gotten to meet so many people and expand my network and give back to the community. It's a great organization.
So you went from Rotary to, you're on the planning board now, right?
I am on the planning board. So,
and how long have you been on the planning board?
So this is my third rotation. So I just finished 6 years.
6 years.
And I've got 3 more. Mayor Carney just sent me the letter 2-3 months ago, and it's going to be my last rotation. It's probably a big announcement. You know, I think 3 terms on the planning board, which is voluntary. It's the planning board is not something you get elected to, so it's more community service.
Right.
And it's advisory. It's not a final decision.
And it's not paid.
It's not paid, and I don't end up on the front page of a newspaper, which is good.
No, very good. So I mean, most people move to a small town and they just want to get to know people and get involved. I mean, you threw yourself, head first into everything, and not only went for, got involved in Rotary and like you said, Miles said, I used to see you everywhere.
That's how we met.
You were everywhere.
I knew you since I moved here. You've always been kind to me and nice to me. And every time we see each other, it's just like a mutual admiration club.
So and then you end up in the planning board, and now
Yes.
6 years plus 3 more, so you have 9 years on the planning board.
Right.
And
I ran for office in 2013. I came in a good third for a Yankee from 28117. I was really proud that when I looked at how many people, I think 1,800 people voted for me. I mean, I came from a place where public office was not something I thought I'd ever do.
Right.
And 18 people showed up and voted for me.
How many?
mean, that's amazing, about 1,800.
1,800 people. Wow.
And if you know how politics works, which I know you do, not a lot of people come out. So
No, I mean, what a municipal election, especially this year, will have maybe 8%.
Right.
So
what I think, we're going to get maybe 8 or 10 or 12,000 to show up to vote.
Right. So, but then when there's a controversial hearing, you have 100% want to show up and
That's right.
complain, but yet they don't take the time
That's right.
to vote, which
You have to vote. When you vote in municipal elections, that's really what impacts you locally.
right.
It really does.
Yeah, and if you aren't engaged and you aren't following what's going on, there are elections coming up, and we strongly encourage you, go online, do your diligence, do your research, meet your candidates, call them.
Right.
Their cell phone numbers are on the internet.
They want to talk to you.
They need to talk to you, yeah, and because they will be your representative. So a lot of people don't focus or put the effort into the municipal elections and local elections like they should, and we talk about that on the show quite often because everything is hyper local, and the closer you are to the locality, the more important knowing who the leadership is and engaging with them, so that so that they have the proper pulse on what's really happening in the community. Because if you don't tell them, they don't know.
That's right, and they will meet with you. They will sit down and they will get a cup of coffee because they're regular people, just like you and I.
Yeah.
They're nothing. They're just out in the community trying to make it better.
Just trying to make a difference. So this is Brad Howard. I'm with Jeremy Katz, Beyond the Blueprint, and we will be right back. This is Brad Howard, and we're back on Beyond the Blueprint with Jeremy Katz. planning board member with the town of Mooresville and real estate broker, and we could just have a whole list of accolades that go behind your name. We've talked about who you are, how you got here, the community involvement that you have volunteered yourself so graciously for, and just giving back and all that you do. But let's go a little further now into the local real estate market and look at shifts and trends. According to the data, October 2025 has been named the best time to buy in 5 years. Inventory is up 21%. Can you give us any insight into that? I know we're talking about residential now. You're
Sure.
primarily commercial, but you do understand this market, and we'll keep going from there.
Of course. What we're seeing in the residential market, I train a lot of agents with Lake Norman Realty, and I speak to a lot of agents. And what we're starting to see, it's actually in place already, is houses are sitting longer on the market. I have 4 or 5 residential friends, and they're just getting no showings on their properties. And this is in the $350,000 to $600,000 range. Some of the higher end product is moving, but things are sitting, and we're shifting into a buyer's market. I'm almost going to go out and say that we are in a buyer's market, but the sellers are just not ready to start to loosen up those prices. But if they need to sell, what's going to happen is they're going to have to move off price. But it is a great time. I always say, the best time to buy a house, you gotta have your property on the market, and it sells it will always sell. So you got to get out. You got to think about pricing right. You got to think about your strategy, and understand that we're in a buyer's market.
So as we enter into a buyer's market on the residential, and what price points you said you're seeing this in the $300,000 to $600,000 price point?
Right, where they're getting no showings.
Okay. Is there any insight into why, or any discussions that people are having? Any data points?
I think they're concerned about the cost of the real estate and the rates, and they're just sitting on the fence. I think that's where we are in the economy.
Okay. So you said a buyer's market versus a seller's market. How are they adapting to having to reduce their prices?
They're not in a good spot. They're not ready yet. They're still in that 2020, 2021, 2022 mindset.
Well, there was a period of rapid inflationary, results on what happens to the piece of paper that says your house is worth $1 today, and it's worth $1.50, and then it was worth $1.75. Now it might be worth $1.60. But
yeah, they're just not shifting off that number. And I'm seeing, so I have just listed one townhouse up in Statesville. We priced it right, and we went under contract immediately. But they took my guidance and advice. And they didn't have to. They could have listed it, 10, 20% higher, but the price got it sold. Ultimately.
So what? So if you're training these folks, what strategies? How are you guiding them on how to navigate this with their buyers or their sellers?
You have to understand your product. You have to be honest and open about where the market is, and you have to listen, and you have to ask more questions. You're the professional. And you have to be prepared to work as an agent now. You have to adopt to video. You have to do your open houses. And, this is residentially speaking. And you have to be the person that when somebody says your name, they correlate it with real estate.
Right.
And if they correlate it with anything else, you have to work harder.
Well, there you go. Talking about having to, negotiate a little harder, get a little more involved in the process. It used to just be you throw the sign up, you say coming soon, you get a lot of showings.
Not anymore.
You move on.
Not anymore.
Now, where were you seeing those buyers during the previous few years, they were coming from other states like yourself, or were they local, people moving up in the community, or were they moving from out of state into Lake Norman? Or
So we have both. We were seeing a lot of influx from other states. They were running from higher prices up north, Boston, New York, New Jersey, Chicago. And we've got a lot of movement. Like in my neighborhood, we have about 75 houses. I would say in the last 8 or 10 years, almost 90% turned over. Wow. They're moving up or away. And where I grew up, nobody ever left the block. So we've got both. It's a great place to live. I know people won't necessarily believe this, but it's still fairly reasonable as it relates to other parts of the country.
if you look at our market, and this is the only place you've ever lived, the prices are insane.
Insane.
Right. But if you look at it from a global perspective or a national perspective, it's very affordable to live here.
It is. It is. My parents' house at 1970 North Shore Road in Merrick is probably in the $800,000 or $900,000 range. When they sold their house, their taxes were $24,000.
Wow.
So you say to yourself, I'm going to move to Mooresville. I could buy something for $400 and have taxes in the $3,800 to $4,200 range, and have a great life. Right. Put up
versus
with a little
the
bit
same price point and have 24,000.
Right. $2,000 a month just to walk into your house.
Right.
As a retiree. So it's still a great place to live, and it still is affordable. And, sometimes you're not going to be able to live exactly where you want to live, but you know what? You still live in a great town. So take Mooresville, for example. Look at what happened downtown. It's been it's like a regentrification. It's a beautiful place. We have apartment buildings now. Most of the buildings are getting turned over and renovated. It's a great place to be.
Yeah, so it was a good transition there to start talking about the nuances of the commercial market. So you hit on the residential market and the trends where you're seeing there. What do you see in the commercial market? And we can talk mostly about Mooresville, but also reflect the listeners here are primarily coming from Iredell County all the way down to North Charlotte.
Sure.
So as you drive up and down the interstate, maybe take some specific things that are specific to different markets as you come up and down 77.
Got it. So I'll do that, but I'll try to focus on the downtowns.
Right.
So we'll start north and we'll look at Statesville. Statesville's done a wonderful job redoing itself. The city did a beautiful job putting together their streetscapes. We're seeing buildings turn over now. It's very expensive to buy downtown buildings, but it's also very expensive to update these older buildings. We just had the fire on the corner, and it's making everybody nervous. It was at Broad and Front.
Right.
And we're starting to see the rents creep up just a little bit. And if the rents creep up, that means the investment potential is there. But the buildings in downtown Statesville haven't hit the price point yet where they're turning over as much.
Right.
We could shift down to Troutman's.
And before when we're in each market, maybe what do you see as the average rent rates in that downtown district?
Gotcha. So we're talking in downtown Statesville for 2,000 square feet, $18 a square foot. We won't
give or take. You'll have different types of buildings, different upfits, and
of course,
but just as a general.
Just as a general. And if you take $18, we won't call it a gross or a triple net. You just take your $18 times your square footage divided by 12, and that's your monthly rent.
Right.
So we've got some vacancy up in Statesville, but Statesville has a lot of opportunity.
I love Statesville.
So do I. I almost bought the corner where Groucho's is.
Oh.
And years ago, that's a super interesting building. It cantilevers over the rear building. I don't know if you've ever been there. So you've got a tenant upstairs that sits on over an adjoining building, but the only way to get there is through the building that you own. So you have a tenant inside your building that's not yours.
That's interesting.
That's above Groucho's. Super interesting property. And that's what scared me away a little bit. So now let's shift down to Troutman. Troutman is going through a renaissance as well with all the residential building, but they just don't have a lot of product in their downtown. So there's not much to invest in.
And Troutman's gone from 3,500 people to 9,000 to they have 9,000 homes on the books.
It's an explosion.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's nothing. I mean, it's straight up.
That's
but again, a lot of people say, well, there's so much going on in Troutman. There is a lot happening in Troutman, but when you compare it to Mooresville, when Mooresville grows by 20,000 people, you don't feel it. When Troutman grows by 5,000 people,
you're busting
at the seams.
Right. You go to Food Lion and you can't get in. So they're finding their feet. They're finding their sea legs, Troutman. And now let's go to Mooresville.
Well, what kind of rates? I know they don't have a lot of product, which does influence rates.
And I haven't done much work in Troutman, so I don't want to speak.
Fair enough. Let's go to
Mooresville. So I just sold Mooresville's first bank. That was one of my most exciting and proudest sales. Not from a price point, just from selling a piece of history.
Right.
So if you look at the Eterna Hardware and you rotate a little bit to the right, that was the building I sold. And when I first got to Mooresville, those buildings, you could have acquired them in the $200,000 to $300,000 range, and it was very quiet. We sold this one for $950.
I was going to say they're pushing 7 digits now.
Yeah, they are. They are. So we just sold that one. The rent on something like that is going to be $28 to $32 a square foot, plus or minus. I sold the old Pless Hair building, and if you haven't seen those plans yet, that was super interesting. So investors of mine from New York came in, and they're respecting the facade, but they are going to add an elevator on the interior up to the second floor in a downtown Mooresville building, and they're adding another level so you can have a penthouse level, so you can have retail at grade, and essentially 2 floors of residential.
Yeah. Now there's some cool history with those buildings in downtown. So
I love them.
when you go upstairs, they used to all connect.
I do know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and especially that building, there was like a little stage I think up there.
Right. Right.
Haven't been here your whole life here in all these buildings.
No, I love to hear.
Yeah.
I love to hear the history. I mean, for me, one of the things about the commercial real estate, especially, is when I ask somebody about their property, I just ask them a question. You tell me about the history, and I close my mouth because it's so interesting, and we have to respect that history. And the downtown Mooresville corridor really is so busy. People get all concerned about the traffic, but you know what? Traffic means that your town is vibrant and your town is healthy, which means your property values are going to be protected a little bit from. We have some downturn, but I love Mooresville. I love my town.
Let's keep going. Davidson, Cornelius and Huntersville.
Davidson is in a unique place that I'm going to put back onto you. I haven't sold anything in Davidson yet. I would love to, but those properties just don't sell.
They don't hit the market.
They don't sell.
No, the only ones that I know trade before they never hit the market.
Exactly. Yeah. It's, the values are going to go up. The values there, to me, when I look at Davidson's downtown, it's like a bond. You buy a building downtown and you keep that in your family forever. Yeah.
So let's, we have a break coming up. Let's hit Cornelius, and then we'll try to get to Huntersville. If not, we'll hit it after the break.
Sure. Cornelius is really, really, really doing well. I just listed a property on Bethel Church Road. It's not in the downtown, but my phone has been blowing up. It hit the market yesterday. It's the building where they do dance lessons. But downtown Cornelius is really quaint. It's got all the converted residences, the houses that they then convert over to commercial. You've got the Kane Center. And then they're doing the project behind the Kane Center, and you have the apartment building. Really good downtown.
All right, we'll keep talking about downtown Cornelius. When we come back, we're going to take a break. Brad Howard, Beyond the Blueprint. We'll be right back. This is Brad Howard, and we're back on Beyond the Blueprint with Jeremy Katz, and we are discussing retail, commercial, residential, office development from Statesville to Huntersville. We've been talking about the downtowns, and we're in the middle of Cornelius right now. And I'll bring this full circle, but let's finish on Cornelius.
Right. So I was in the Kane Center for the first time the other day, and as you walk outside the Kane Center, and you look to the right, and you've got, I don't know what you call it, the mill. I don't know what you'd call that building historically. That's the Knox zone.
Right.
They're doing a beautiful job renovating that property. And now we've got office across the street by Antiquity. Downtown Cornelius has really come to its own.
Right. And I remember the day when there was no downtown Cornelius.
I'd love to hear more about that.
So where the Food Lion was Reeves Brothers, which became Fomex and moved down the street. They built the Food Lion. I can't remember. I think that was in the 90s, maybe. And then the town hall, the police station, just all the pieces. Then Antiquity. Now you have 5-6-story apartment buildings.
That's right.
And then there's more, I think, planned. So downtown Cornelius, which there really was no downtown. And I remember when they were, I can't remember. I think Gary was maybe mayor. I can't remember, but they were doing the sidewalks that went from the interstate to this downtown that really didn't exist yet. Mm-hmm. But now when you look at it, it looks like it's always been there.
Right.
So as people move it hasn't.
It hasn't.
So, and that goes back to everything, as everyone always points to the lake. My parents, the lake wasn't there. The lake was flooded in 1963. It reached full pond.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, so the lake wasn't always there. 77 wasn't there. 21 wasn't there. And you don't have to go back very far before this infrastructure wasn't in place. So, while we still need things and, we're talking about timelines and everything else, we've had this discussion on the show before about Highway 150. The first mention of widening 150 was in 1987.
Wow. And we're finally getting it.
And we almost didn't get it again. So, but we've had several shows on that, so we won't touch on that.
And maybe you could tell me if this is true, but I have a listing of the original bowling alley in Mooresville on North Broad Street.
North Broad Street.
That's right. So if you come down 150, my understanding was you'd come from Rowan and you'd go to the train tracks, and there was a farm there. And as I understood it, 150 didn't exist. And the reason they put the bowling alley there and all that commercial is because you'd make a left, and that was the entrance to downtown Mooresville. because you say to yourself, why would you put the bowling alley there? Because you couldn't go straight.
Now you're talking about the building that's right beside the Armory.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's still for sale. It's a shameless plug.
Shameless plug. All right. So we talked about Cornelius, some beautiful, beautiful job that the town's doing there, and all the development partners that are participating.
Huntersville's doing the same thing. They started out a little quiet. They had their municipal building at the corner. They had the science center over there. They had a big parking deck, and they had a few little small buildings. And all of a sudden, through their development plan, things are rising. Apartment buildings are coming out of the ground. There's a brewery by the park, and they're turning their downtown into what feels like more of a downtown. And maybe you can correct me. My understanding is before 77, to get up to this area, you'd have to come up through 21 or 115, and that would bring you through the little towns before the lake.
Well, 115 was the farm to market road, and then 21 was actually the bypass.
There you go.
But the one thing, and people always wonder why the traffic backs up on 77 at exit starting at 28, between 28 and 33.
Right.
Well, if you notice 21, so they had 115, then they built the bypass. And the bypass is now, part of it is 77. So between 33 and 28, that section of 21 is what they built, is what made 77.
Interesting.
So that's why you have you're taking two roads down to one,
right,
crossing the lake, and then it widens back up in Cornelius. Right. So that's why you have a bottleneck there.
Interesting. I love the history.
Yeah.
Love it.
Things change. So let's talk about commercial real estate, things that impact growth and the speed of growth, and which direction we move in is financing, because the money moves the market.
Money moves everything.
Money moves everything.
Money moves everything. And, you've got development, and, you could speak to this. When you see dirt move, that deal was negotiated maybe 2 or 3 years earlier. And
the financing on the deal. I mean, your entitlements and everything else. I mean, people say, I thought they stopped apartments in Mooresville. Well, some of these are approved 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago.
Exactly.
But it took that long.
It took that long before and you say to yourself, where'd this come from? This could have been voted on by a town board that had all different members than the ones that are there now.
Right.
And the markets shift and bring you to a point like Perth and Dooley. How long did it take to get that developed by Princeton?
Oh, I know.
How many, we could like it or we could not like it, but these things are in the works and moving for years and years and years. And then you underwrite a deal and the rents are at one level and then the rents drop. And now you have to hold off for a little while because the bank's not ready to write those checks.
Forward. Yeah, and then the other things that happen and upset people locally, I know we're not going to do a deep dive into politics, but people are quick to blame politicians on roads and infrastructure and everything else, especially here in North Carolina. A lot of these road projects take 7, 10 years. Like we were just talking about 150. 1987 was the first discussion. How long has it been on the STIP? How many times has it moved? But the towns and the local elected officials make decisions based on what the information the state gives them. You're only as good as the information that you have.
That's right.
And when they're told that a project will happen here, and they know that there's probably some fluff, most people don't expect a decade of fluff. So they approve projects, based on the information they have on hand at the time.
And those roads it's a lagging indicator. So you need to have growth in your community
in order for the state to step up and fund the road.
Exactly.
Or actually to put it on the list.
And it's my understanding that we almost lost the 150 project just around the time of the hurricane last year because the price went up. It became too expensive, put us to the back of the line.
And it was because our local leaders fought.
They did.
We kept the money. Had they followed, had it been the way the rules say it was, they would have gotten kicked. The can would have gotten kicked.
That's right.
So the people only have their local leaders during that period to thank for that.
That's right. And so this will be the extent of which I talk about politics, and it won't be individuals. But you need to understand that we're at a point, whether we like it or not, where the towns, all of them, have grown so much that you need people who understand and can pick the phone up and make the phone calls to get things done.
And the towns need to work together.
Yes, they do.
Right. So you can't live on an island by yourself anymore.
No.
In order to make sure that things are done properly, to make sure the foundation is in place so that when our kids or our grandkids, grow up, if they stay here, if they choose to stay here, or for future generations that move here, if we don't all sit down and work together, it's going to be a big mess.
It will be. You're balancing property rights, you're balancing different towns that are all interconnected.
Right.
All interconnected. When I sit on the planning board and I make a decision, my decisions are for my children. If my children live here when they grow up, is the decision I make and my vote something that's going to benefit or impact them? And I want this town to be a place that Mooresville or the Lake or even Charlotte to be a place that my kids are willing to move back to after they graduate from wherever they go.
Yeah, that's right. We can't screw it up because if we do,
you can't.
Yeah,
you can't. You can't overdevelop, but then
Right.
at the same time, you can't say no to everything.
Yeah.
You want to grow. You want to have a healthy economy.
right. So, but if we all talk and we grow, I don't really like the term smart growth, but if we grow with purpose and open dialogue and communication, one thing, and we've talked about this on the show as well in the past, is coming across, the 150 bridge.
Mm-hmm.
So Mooresville, Iredell County has no say in what Catawba, Lincoln, Sherrills Ford, Denver, what they do.
Right.
Yet 19,000 cars a day come to Mooresville for and that's a couple-year-old statistic, so it's a lot more than that.
Right.
So those folks come over here in order for Target, Walmart, their services like that aren't on that side of the lake.
That's right.
But yet we have no say in what they do. But having that open dialogue with Catawba County, with Sherrills Ford, with Denver's not an incorporated towns, but with Lincoln and the leadership over there, and just know what's being approved, what's in the works. That open dialogue is extremely important. No different than it is for Huntersville, Cornelius, Davidson, Mooresville, Troutman, Statesville, and Harmony.
That's right.
The whole 77 chain.
Decisions, they shouldn't be made in a silo. Everybody should be communicating. If Davidson is going to do something, Mooresville and Davidson should talk to each other, and vice versa.
Right. Right. So, well, very good. We're going to take a break in just a second here. We still haven't gotten into the meat of the commercial things we want to talk about.
We could
but
talk about it all day.
All day. But let's tease real fast with multifamily, office, retail, the commercial development. What are you seeing? And then we'll talk about details after we get back from the break. Got it.
I am seeing some pain in the multifamily, the big multifamily sector.
On construction, new construction.
On new construction. Everything is sort of slowed down. The banks are a little nervous. They have some trepidations on lending on multifamily. Mm-hmm. I'm talking institutional grade.
Correct.
Big 2, 3, 4, 500 unit complexes. I'm not talking about, a 10 or 12 unit complex, a mom and pop where you could go to a local bank. But there is some trepidations, and the rates are just too high. Construction costs are too much for them to make the numbers work.
Right. So we'll dive into the details more on that when we get back. Brad Howard with Jeremy Katz, and this is Beyond the Blueprint. We'll be right back. This is Brad Howard, and we're back with Beyond the Blueprint with Jeremy Katz, talking about commercial real estate in the Lake Norman region right now. We just talked about multifamily and how the larger projects, have slowed down when the interest rate spiked and construction costs spiked. But there is some relief coming in that area, mm-hmm. I believe. But let's keep going. What other segments?
So let's talk about flex. Flex are industrial buildings with small bays, 2,000 to 4,000 square feet for the mom and pops. So what could you have in there? You could have a contractor or somebody like that. That market is still very, very, very strong. Clients of mine are building 2 20,000 square foot buildings in Mooresville at the north end of Talbert, and we'll get that leased up. That's over by the rec center, the Mooresville Rec Center.
Is this right across at the cul-de-sac?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So that you've got.
Yeah.
Okay. So Flex is still doing very well. I consider Flex. So like the canary in the coal mine, because mm-hmm. these are the mom and pops who need 2 or 3 or 4,000 square feet to operate their business. They're not ready for 5 or 10 or 15,000 square feet of industrial. And so that market is still doing very well. The 5, 10, 12,000 square foot industrial buildings also are doing very well. As you're getting into the larger industrial space with high ceilings, we're seeing a little bit of change there, but we just don't have a lot of product. I just sold a 30,000 square foot building on Winston Avenue in Statesville to Iredell County for its Katz facility.
Okay.
And I had multiple offers and 2 days of constant showings on that. And that sold quickly.
And that was how many square feet?
30,000.
30,000. What did you get for that?
2.1 and change.
Okay.
So in the 60s a square foot.
Okay.
Solid number.
Okay.
So that was really good. And that was owned by Statesville Carpet Rentals, which was a mom and pop family that built it.
Oh, okay. I know the building.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I love about real estate again is, you're still helping people, even though it's commercial and it's nuts and bolts and numbers. You're helping people move on and take their dream and their legacy and help them move on to the next phase.
All right. So what else are you seeing?
So what am I
Retail.
seeing?
Yeah.
Retail it's interesting. So they say we're under retailed, meaning we don't have enough retail space.
Depends on the retail.
I agree 100%. What we are under retailed are the small 800 to 1,500 square foot spaces, but those just aren't profitable enough for builders and developers to build. They like little bigger spaces, enough for a franchise, especially in anchored shopping centers. So if you want to start a small trinket shop and you want to sell sneakers, let's say, there's just not a lot of space for you to go and be able to do it and find something that's affordable.
So if you're out there listening and you want to develop something, Jeremy says that
there you go.
need to do the small trinket shop or
there
the
you go.
smaller format development, 800, 1,200 square foot.
Right. So maybe mixed use, so retail at grade, and maybe residential or office above, sort of like the buildings we're in here in Cornelius.
Okay.
I'd call this a mom and pop kind of facility. Beautiful building we're in. And then let's just talk about entry-level investment real estate. There's not a lot of product between, say, the $750 or $800 range and $1.2 million for you to invest and maybe have two forms of income streams, which we just don't have it. I get it all the time, and that's why one of the reasons the downtown prices are so high, because those smaller buildings are what the entry-level buyer wants, but there's just not enough of it.
Okay. And when they're buying these buildings, the investors coming in, are you seeing them as 1031s? Are you seeing debt financing, or
right.
what do you see on? What are you seeing on that?
Mostly cash. My buyers have been mostly cash. 1031s I'm not seeing yet.
Okay.
So if people don't know what a 1031 is, it means you sell your property and you have a certain amount of time to buy another property and you don't pay capital gains on that sale, and you push those taxes and capital gains to the next property.
Okay. Interesting. Well, let's talk about one other topic, and we're going to have a show on this in a few weeks, but opportunity zones. Have you done anything inside an OZ?
I've not. I sold a church in East Spencer, but it was not going to be developed. That was an opportunity zone.
Okay.
So why don't you tell us what an opportunity zone is?
We're going to save that for the show, but this was the teaser. I just didn't know if you might have a specific example.
No. There are governmental benefits if you develop an opportunity zones, and we'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that, and we'll let the expert come in a couple weeks and give us insight into that.
There you go.
So
Class A office, that's a challenge. That's a challenge. They've built these buildings, these beautiful buildings, and people are still working from home, and corporations are taking 60,000 square feet and shrinking down to 10,000 square feet. They're operating at high vacancy rates through Charlotte and the Lake region. The rents have come down, and we're running into a situation both in the office market and the apartment market where loans are coming due and ballooning, and the values now are not at the point where they can necessarily get refinanced out. And I think that's going to be a challenge coming up soon.
Now, is there specific years that you see that coming in?
They said the next 2 years.
The next 2 years.
They expected something to hit this year, but we haven't seen it yet. Okay. And this is based on reading, just like you.
Yeah. And, there was also, there's a period that we're in right now where there was, where the apartment development basically stopped. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have basically apartments that were still under construction and finishing that started when rates were lower and they came up. And then you're going to have a void where no new construction started. Mm-hmm. So how is that going to impact when there's people did not stop moving here, and now all of a sudden you have a 24-month void of supply coming into the market? So what is that going to do to rates? I don't know.
I don't know either. But what's going to happen with the rents too? So even though we might,
when I say rates, the rental rates,
right? So you've got that inflection point where even though you've got high demand, do the median incomes support those rates?
Right.
So you might have an apartment building and your one bedrooms are renting for $2,200 a month. I don't know what they are. Right. If that should be 20-25% of your gross income. People will consider that unaffordable. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, I agree. And then that's money if they're spending it on rent. They're not spending it on food. So what is that going to do to the different restaurants? I mean, We could have this conversation all day
Right.
with the snowball. We only have about 5 minutes left. So what I want to do is I'm going to hit a couple bullet points and just give me your answers. We'll come back. Jeremy's forecast for 2025, 2026. Where are you going?
I'm going to say the end of 2025. People
We're here.
are drinking their pumpkin lattes, so they're shut down. There's real estate goes quiet. It's a great time as a residential buyer at the end of the year because everybody sort of shuts down. Your competition goes away, and there are people that need to sell. So don't be shy to go out and look for your houses and buy something. 2026, I think we're going to just see some bouncing. I don't want to call it the bottom because we haven't bottomed out, but we're going to see, especially in commercial, some bouncing along the bottom and kicking the can down the road. I don't think we're going to see a drop. I don't think the sky is going to fall, especially in this region. Right, because people are still coming here.
Yeah,
It's a great
and
place.
two, when you listen to the news, you're hearing it more from a macro national,
Right.
and there are a lot of pockets that are suffering right now.
There are. Florida's really going through a tough time.
Yeah, but we live in a bubble.
We do.
I mean, we do.
It's a
I always
wonderful place.
call it our little bubble.
You're right.
Right. So and now you have to drive outside the bubble to get in certain things. I don't have to leave my bubble.
That's right.
Right. Everything is around this area we live in now.
Right. And the more outside money that comes in, the people that come and buy here, that they sell a condo in New York City, let's say for $5.8 million, and they come here and buy something for $900,000 to $2 million. They have cash in the bank. That
They
house
go
is
invest
safe.
in a small property.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they're safe. And that's good for everybody in the area from an economic standpoint. I know there's more cars on the road and you don't like the accents. I understand that. I apologize, but it's good for the region.
Right. Better than the alternative where we're saying, what in the world are we going to do, twiddling our thumbs?
That's right.
But it's a balance, and we have to be very, very methodical about how the balance works. Long-term growth. What's your outlook for Mooresville and Lake Norman?
Only positive.
Positive.
And we're going to see the town, Mooresville really a steam engine. We're going to see Statesville grow more. Troutman is already in launch mode. Davidson is its own thing. Davidson's always, like we talked about, it's like a bond. It's a safe space. And Cornelius and Huntersville, as long as they plan right and get things through the system, they're going to do very well. I mean, look, Huntersville is the first suburb outside of Charlotte.
Right.
How could it do bad? If there's no traffic, you could be in uptown Charlotte in 15 minutes.
Right. Next question, advice, buyers, investors, sellers. What's your number one point of advice for this market?
Look for value add properties where you could add value through renovations or updates. If you've got cash, use cash. It's hard to find lending for small investment properties, but come here, come see me, and we'll find you something.
Another promote. So how do they get in touch with you?
You could always call me. I'm not scared to put my number out because if you put my name into Google and you don't find me, I did something wrong. So Jeremy Katz, 516-850-3448. Just call to talk. I'll talk about what's going on.
And what do they call? They call you what? The real estate guy?
They just call me Jeremy. Some people call me JK.
So just giving you a hard time.
Yeah.
You've been very involved in the community. You came here, you jumped in head first. You are obviously very knowledgeable about the market, the entire market, not just Mooresville.
I appreciate that.
And so good things. So the real estate guy here has the answers. So I just want to give you a plug.
I appreciate that.
So anything, big projects, things happening in Mooresville, we have about a minute and a half left.
Yeah.
From the planning board perspective, what are some of the big projects that people should keep an eye on, or maybe that are moving forward right now? Anything in specific?
No, I'd say if you come down, and we're the last Tuesday of every month, and come watch what happens. You could come in and you get to see what's going on in Mooresville real time. And there's a planning board and a town board in Mooresville, in Huntersville, Davidson, and Cornelius, in Iredell County, and Statesville. If you want to know what's going on, come talk to us. Come see it. It's not a secret.
No, they're public meetings for a reason.
That's
right.
right.
And that's the most important thing. And let's end it with that is get involved in your community.
Oh, 100%.
You are the best example of that. Get involved, get engaged, and make a difference. Yes, show up and vote, but go beyond that. Go take the time to, visit with your elected leadership, visit with the different departments. They're public.
That's right.
They will take the time to meet with you.
And if you lead with a servant's heart, your community will give back to you.
Absolutely.
It will. I do not market. I don't advertise, and my phone is ringing all the time. Just do the right thing.
do the right thing, but get involved. If you're going to complain, at least know what you're complaining.
Oh, I'll listen.
Yep.
I'll always listen to complaints, but you're going to get an honest shoot out of me.
That's right. So very good. Well, thank you so much,
Brad. I appreciate it.
And we'll talk more, and we'll have you back on more. And
I love it.
Well, maybe on the Opportunity Zone show.
There you go. So I can learn a little bit more.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. And this is Beyond the Blueprint. Brad Howard with Jeremy Katz, planning board member with the town of Mooresville.